I'm waiting for YouTube to connect, and there's the go live button. So now we can go live. Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another Brony Debates Live. I hope you're all having a wonderful weekend out there. Start of the weekend. It is Friday. The weekend is young. Plenty could go wrong, but just as much could go right. So, we've got a fairly interesting conversation tonight. We're going to be a little less based on debating things of an objective nature this week, and we're going into the more subjective literature theory and headcanon kind of thing because Mr. Aleximus Prime wanted to talk about the potential for Flurry Heart's future, if I'm understanding his thing correctly, his suggestion correctly here, and what that could have meant for the story going forward. So with that being said, let's welcome our guest for tonight, Aleximus. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on again, Brony.
It's nice to have you. And Mr. DJ Skywalker, how are you doing tonight?
Hello again, people. I'm here to annoy the Brony once again.
Yep, you're pretty talented at that. Your cutie mark should just be a picture of my face, but angry. So,
that wouldn't look good.
Yeah, before we get into this, let's give a big shout out to my very generous supporters on Patreon. They, make my bills easy to pay, make content easier to make, and make all of this stuff possible, and I'm just very grateful for it, especially those guys on the $10 and up tier. One of them is joining us for the call tonight, Mr. DJ Skywalker, as well as Princess Heather Blossom, Shady Oak Ministries, Sid McConroy, Autoknight, Emerald Spencer, Sodden, Girder, Senko, Jennan, Kellogg, Kyle Christensen, Stephen A. Wilson, Rein-Kun, Princess Sunshine Sparkle, Bootleg Bard, the Nameless One, and Dark Malcontent, the author of the Metaverse series. All of those guys have their own content links in the description. I would highly recommend checking them out if you want to be on the show. I'd love to have you. We just need to get you on the Patreon for as little as $1 a month, where you can make suggestions and join the show. Now, that all that being out of the way, I should also let you know that this is the first podcast that I'm recording to be uploaded in audio format onto Patreon, so it can be easily downloaded after and listened to after the stream. That was requested by probably my longest running patron, Mr. Narrator 007. So now that we've got all that out of the way, 2.5 minutes into the stream, Alex, what made you want to talk about Flurry Heart tonight?
See, sometime before the show ended, I had the idea of what would happen in My Little Pony if it continued past this rumored 9th season. And I had the genius idea, make it about Flurry Heart. She's an alicorn. She being the main character, she would definitely sell toys. So I think Hasbro couldn't say no to that. But after seeing the finale now, it's almost like the writers of the show want the next show to be about her, because one thing, we had Twilight saying to Shining Armor and Cadence, like, if anything happens to me, like, she's Equestria's last hope, or some whatever she said. And then in the I think these videos are only on YouTube, Flurry Heart's Heartfelt Scrapbook, I believe it's called, which is narrated by Pinky.
Yep.
And that she tells Flurry, like, you're going to do really great things one day, Flurry Heart. And almost like they're setting it up. I don't really think they're going to have Flurry Heart be the main character of the next show. It seems like G5 is actually going to be more like G4.5 at this point, especially with that rumored, like, animatic showing the main 6 in there. Mm-hmm. I don't know, but I just kind of had the genius idea that the next main character of a sequel show could be Flurry Heart, because Twilight is the leader princess now, much like Princess Celestia. She could play that role. Like, her time as the main character is kind of over. That's okay, because now she's the Celestia type character, but now it could be about Flurry.
Okay.
And I just thought it was a really interesting point to bring up, that she could have a future that could really expand the lore of the show.
And
probably in fanfic form.
In the final problem, we did see some stained glass windows that seem to be featuring Flurry Heart front and center. So something went down. And it was probably really cool. DJ, what do you think about the idea of continuing the story through the lens of Flurry Heart?
I could see her being a great supporting character, but honestly, not as much of a main character.
And why is that?
Mostly because of how her parents were portrayed in the show. They were always side characters. And honestly, unless she moved out of the Crystal Empire, I don't think it would have been as entertaining, because the Crystal Empire is honestly kind of boring unless something world-ending is happening.
Okay, so Alex, what do you think about that?
It's funny he should mention that, because the story I'm writing right now, I don't know if I said that earlier. I have mentioned it before, though. In the story I'm writing right now,
we do have it linked in the description.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's my fanfic. In the beginning, the first, it's a series called Flurry Heart's Story, and on my fanfiction, you'll be able to find those stories easily, with the title having Flurry Heart's Story being in the middle, in the title. In the first story, she doesn't move, but temporarily goes away from the Crystal Empire to stay in Ponyville, because she's kind of bored with her royal life. And like DJ just said, the Crystal Empire would be kind of boring. It's funny you mentioned that, because that's what it's like for Flurry. She's kind of tired of like being treated like royalty and everything, and she just wants to go out and have an adventure like Twilight did, which is kind of the opposite of Twilight, because Twilight started off not wanting to do that, not wanting to make friends. She just, a scholar who wanted to keep reading books. She found herself in a circumstance where Celestia had her go there. She made friends, though, and she liked it. Well, this time in my story, Flurry actually wants to do that. So, yeah, she goes away from the Crystal Empire to go into Ponyville, because Ponyville is pretty much the best place for stories to be happening. Definitely from what's the word I'm looking for? A slice of life.
Slice of knife.
Yeah, sorry. That was a Freudian slip.
Knife!
Oh, man. Big flashbacks.
All right.
Who remembers the glowing orange?
What were you saying?
That Ponyville is the best place to be telling a slice of life story. Anyway, any place pretty much could be, but it's mostly Ponyville, because in the official show, that's where it happens. I do obviously go outside of Ponyville and do a little bit of world building, because now I'm free to, now that the show is done, and they didn't take us to like Erick and Scorpion's homeland or anything, and we never got to see Scorpion in the show either. That still kind of miffs me.
Well, as a fan fiction writer, you're allowed to do that regardless. That's why it's fan fiction.
Yeah, I'm actually going against some canon in the story, at least with the origin of the elements of harmony, because they told it a very different way in the season 7 finale, but that's okay. Fan fictions, you can do whatever you want. Plus, with shows constantly retconning original shows these days, it's hard to keep up with a lot of them anyways. So
right.
I wish they would retcon the Star Wars sequels.
So what your answer to DJ's story-centric Flurry Heart would be boring, would be a bad thing, is that you can fix that, or so you say, by taking it out of the Crystal Empire, because the Crystal Empire is the boring part about it. So DJ, what do you think? Do you think that would work?
I don't know. I've always kind of, in my own headcanon, I always pictured Flurry Heart would probably end up as a brat. Super spoiled, super tantrum happy. Mm-hmm. That's kind of like the feel I got about like when Twilight babysat her that one time.
Oh yeah, that episode made me a little upset.
I just had this feeling that she would turn out to be a brat, and then one day her parents would get fed up and with Shining being who he is, would send her off to boot camp in Camelot, and I think that would actually be a pretty entertaining series.
Oh,
You're
this
right.
got dark really quick.
Well, no, we can.
Sorry.
Dark? That'd be like Josh Scorcher's wet dream.
What?
Or to build off of that, you could very well take that premise and set it up to something like Drake and Josh or The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. That's what I would have suggested. Yeah, we would just have to give her some kind of foil.
Yeah,
you know,
a partner in crime, a duo.
Right. So the trick with Flurry Heart is that as she's too powerful. Because the alicorn nonsense just gets ridiculous. So I've been relatively outspoken that there should have never been more than 2 alicorns ever. Yeah, on some days I make an exception for cadence, but other than that, no alicorns, right? So the fact that Flurry exists as an alicorn and that she just came out of nowhere as an alicorn and it was never explained why she's an alicorn and never given anything to do as an alicorn drove me nuts as a writer. And it's one of the, it's one of the things that normally when people say, oh, friendship is magic is no good because this, and this, half the time, not 90% of the time I can just be like, no, you weren't paying attention. Flurry Heart is an alicorn. No, you got that. That is a point. So, we would need to strip her of the alicorn, one way or another. Maybe. Okay, let's bat around some ideas here and workshop something until we have a functioning show. Here's what I'm thinking. Series opens. Flurry Heart is a brat, because I was thinking the same exact thing as DJ was. It takes no responsibility for herself, does whatever she wants, gets away with it because she's just revered, doesn't listen to her parents. Her parents may very well know she's a brat, but don't know what to do about it. And gets herself into trouble messing with some kind of ancient magic. I don't know. Could even be a series-long overarching villain. I'm going to take away Flurry Heart's anything. It could be her wings. It could be her magic as a whole. It could be anything. But we got to bring her down to Earth. And from there, now she's got to earn her way back up by leaving the Crystal Empire to learn more about the world and to learn maybe even about friendship, to make her own, team avatar, main 6, whatever you want to call it, type of thing, and solve problems. I don't know. What do you, DJ? What do you think about that? Add or take away from something I said.
I'm getting heavy Star versus the Forces of Evil vibes.
Yeah, to a degree, but Star Butterfly never got nerfed. She just went to our world and still had all her powers. If anything, she was exalted because she could do things that nobody else could in a world that was severely disadvantaged, and it was just hijinks from there on out. So I would not have compared it to Star Versus, but
I guess the original idea for Star that sadly was kind of dropped.
Okay, well I don't know about that.
It showed up in a few episodes. If you notice, when Star is talking with her mom, the mom ordered her no magic. So she has to try and keep the magic secret from the mom when she calls. But that didn't get hammered in very well.
Didn't she get the wand in the very beginning, and then she blew up the castle?
She set the kingdom on fire.
And then they sent her
the kingdom on fire.
And then they sent her to Earth, but with the wand still.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make any sense. They should have built it up where they send her to Earth without the wand, but at the end of the season, she finally earns the right to wield the wand, but she wants to stay on Earth a little longer or something. I don't know.
I think at the end of the series, they just they got rid of magic entirely, and all of the alternate universes fused, and it was weird to say the least. And then magic was still there. I don't know.
No, it was gone. Magic was gone.
Okay.
But that's a whole other thing. But as for that it could be interesting, but I'm not sure how much it would go over well with having like actual parts be missing from the main character. I think that would cause some issues. I mean that's borderline body horror. Like
yeah,
it was already weird
so.
enough when it was already weird enough when Discord did it.
I never had a problem when Discord did it. It might be that might be subjective though. Alex, what do you think?
Oh, Brony, you said how in your mind Flurry grows up to be a brat. That actually kind of was my original idea for my fanfic series. Was she doesn't want to go to Ponyville. She's terrible at making friends. So Shining Armor and Cadence, who are king and queen in my story, by the way, the Crystal Empire, they send her there for the same reason Celestia sent Twilight. And Flurry is all like, no, I don't want to go make friends. But I ended up figuring out that's too similar to Twilight's story. So, like I said earlier, I did it the other way around. Flurry wants to go there. She asks, like, if she can go. And they decide to, after she's in this like ball in the first story that doesn't go well for her, and she kind of her instincts sort of kick in, and she tells off this one professor of like a university who tries to get her an offer to join the school for gifted unicorns in the Canterlot, or not Canterlot, in the Crystal Empire. I can't remember what I called it. I forget my own fanfic. What's wrong with me? So she basically like tells him off and makes herself look bad, and Shining Armor and Cadence decide, yeah, it's time we let her to go to Ponyville. Although there's actually a bigger reason they let her go, which I'm not going to say what it is because spoilers. So It is an interesting idea though for her to be bratty. But however, on the topic of her being overpowered in the official show, it does irk me also how they never explained that. They never really explained enough about alicorns in the show. And again, that's where fanfics come in. But in my story, Flurry is probably about as powerful as Twilight was in the beginning of the show. Maybe not as powerful, actually maybe a bit more powerful because she was born an alicorn. She's not as powerful as she was in the season 6 premiere, because by the end of that episode, her powers seemed to kind of die down. She wasn't shooting like laser beams of death and destruction that go through like solid crystal. She was still pretty powerful. She could like lift things with her magic, and she could still fly. She could teleport in the Flurry of Emotions.
Right, we get that, but where are you going with it?
In other words, I haven't explained it yet, but I like to think that her powers died down the older she got. Yeah, see, it's hard to imagine this when they didn't explain it for us in the show. But for the same reason, she kind of lost her godlike abilities at the end of the season 6 premiere. I guess it died down the more she learned.
Well, they placed a spell on her.
No. I mean, I guess
that's what Sunburst said.
Yeah, that's what Sunburst said. He specifically said, "Oh, and we'll add Foal's forbearance on there to prevent the magic outbursts."
Oh, I never caught that part. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Ear there, guys. Yeah, okay. I actually did not know that, but yeah,
it was 2016.
I forget a lot of
you just got to remember.
Sorry. Oh, but yeah, this would go into like deep lore, but I like to think that the more she learned about magic, the more careful she was with her magic, and therefore her like power level, it didn't go down. She didn't think to unleash like really powerful magic because she's like smarter now and has control of her emotions, whereas she could get like really angry, and then she'd like kind of go Super Saiyan and be able to shoot like really powerful.
Now you've got this. The problem with what you're pushing me here is now you've got this trump card that you can play at any time to remove all challenge from the game. So how would Flurry Heart in this case, if she's got the ability to tap into deep wells of overpowered magic pretty much anytime she wants, and she just chooses not to, where's the challenge then?
First of all, you're canceled for using the word Trump. No, I'm kidding. Well, I didn't want her to be a Mary Sue in my story, and this is just, my headcanon again, because she kind of was in the show. I mean, do you agree that she was a Mary Sue?
I wouldn't say Mary Sue. In order to marry Sue, you have to have a character at all. She never talked. She literally never talked, and the rest of the time she was just a baby, right? So that's there's nothing to work with there. So I wouldn't say Mary Sue, no, but I would say no character. But continue with your point.
Oh, because I don't like Mary Sue's either. I've seen the Star Wars sequels. I'm ranking more on the Star Wars sequels, but I can't help it. So my goal is to try to create stories where I try to not make the main character a Mary Sue. Excuse me. So that's the main reason why I didn't make her super powerful. There's actually, because it would be expected that she would be the main hero in this story I'm making. Or that she would save the day. And this is a spoiler for those who haven't read my story. In the first story, by the end of it, it is actually the student 6 who end up saving the day. They are the new elements of harmony. But Flurry Heart helps by discovering that they're the elements and bringing them to the place they need to be in to defeat the villain in my story. I subverted expectations by not making her be the powerful superhero who's going to save the day. She might be someday, but for right now, it's the student 6, Gallus, Sandbar, Yona. Or actually now the teacher 6 in my story. And yeah, Gallus hasn't become a guard yet.
All right.
Not quite that far.
So you're doing a lot of spoiling your own story and not as much of telling me how you're going to make the potential problems with your concept work.
You mean with addressing why is she so powerful?
Right. So, DJ, do you have anything to add to anything that Alex is saying here? Anything you'd like to, concerns with the concept you'd like to raise?
I guess it depends on the type of story he's going to go for, because I don't have the biggest issue with overpowered characters if they're in the right kind of story. Like with a lot of Superman, a lot of the issues that people have with Superman is usually when he's in the Action Comics. But where people love Superman is when he's in Slice of Life comics, where his powers aren't the focus, it's who he is as a person. So I think Aleximus stated earlier it was more of a Slice of Life story, so an overpowered character works a lot better in those kind of stories, in my opinion.
Okay, so in this case, DJ, what could Flurry Heart possibly have that wasn't had by Sunset Shimmer or Starlight Glimmer?
In what way?
Well, because Sunset and Starlight were both super powerful as well, and had to sort of learn how to control, and then did their best shining in character moments rather than moments of conflict. So, so what I'm saying is here, we already have Starlight Glimmer. Why would we need Flurry Heart? What could Flurry Heart bring to the concept that Starlight did not?
Well, friendship troubles for one. Because of Flurry's position as well as her power, that creates a strange friendship dynamic.
Okay, how so?
Envy.
All right.
That's going to cause a lot of issues for those that see her and all they see is power. They don't see her as a person. They just see, that's the princess. That's a powerhouse. That's someone we can use.
There's envy. There's the manipulation aspect. There's also intimidation. Not being able to approach anybody because they're terrified of you. You can't have an honest conversation with anybody because they're afraid Flurry Heart might do something if she doesn't like something they say, which, you know, may or may not be true, but that's certainly a potential point of character conflict there.
Yeah, because Sunset and Starlight didn't have that. There was no envy of their power because they were villains that failed. This is a character that's always been on the good side, but people fear her because of just what she is, not who she is.
Rainbow Rocks and a good chunk of season 6 had the fear and the intimidation aspect of they didn't want to associate with somebody
from those characters, not to others towards them.
Interesting. You might have me there.
This is a flip of the script.
Okay. Alex, what do you think about that?
Well, I wanted to say another interesting thing. Well, this is probably a little off topic since it doesn't deal with like relationship issues. It could set her up for, if she's really powerful, being a target for a villain, especially like someone who steals magic.
Mm-hmm.
Erick. On the topic of relationship issues, I actually had this idea recently, how because she's not only powerful but also royalty, I could also set her up as a target for other, you know, bratty characters like Diamond Tiara, for example, who would be obviously a grown-up at this time, and she's obviously also a better pony now too. But any character like that, see Flurry and befriend her, not because they actually care about friendship, but because they want to use her to get more popular, you know, that sort of thing. That's a really interesting plot point that could have been used for an episode for. I'm kind of surprised they didn't go that route with Twilight at one point in the show, because, you know, when Twilight became royalty, somebody could have taken advantage of her, like, oh, look at me, I'm friends with the princess. And
there was I think it was Twilight Time where the Cutie Mark Crusaders projected that onto her.
Oh yeah.
But other than that, yeah, you're and let me.
The cruise ship.
And yeah, well, that was she kind of got suckered into that as well. But yeah, that's almost that's a good example too. I would watch the heck out of Flurry Heart in a student mentor sort of relationship with Diamond Tiara. I think that would be really interesting.
Oh, didn't it Brony Notion, who now goes by Sawtooth Waves? I'm a Patreon supporter of his too. I think he made a video about that, or no, I'm sorry, I'm getting confused. He made a video where Diamond Tiara is the one who helps reform Cozy Glow in obviously a hypothetical sense. If, you know, Cozy Glow had a better ending.
No, I don't watch.
Yeah,
I don't watch Sawtooth. Maybe he got better over the years, but when the last, like, every time I've tried to watch him, I think the last time I tried to watch him was like 2016. I'll just say I was not a fan. So I don't know anything about his content. You'll need to educate me there. But that's I did see that he made that video, and I suppose it could be an interesting concept. There's also a fan comic series that goes around, and please forgive me for not knowing the name of the series or the name of the artist. But, you know, basically Flurry Heart and Cozy Glow are friends in the future. And, you know, so there's that going on.
I actually don't think I know what comic series you're talking about.
Yeah, it's appeared on Equestria Daily a couple of times, and I should have, and I'm like, oh, you know, that's cute, that's an interesting concept, but I never bothered to follow the artist or remember what the series was called, so I apologize for that, but I do know it exists.
Well, you know what's funny is, depending on when Cozy Glow, if she ever were released from Stone, depending on when she's released, she could come out being the same exact age as Flurry, even though she's technically supposed to be like 8 to 10 years older than her. So then they could be friends who are around the same age group. people tend to befriend people that are around the same age as them.
Perhaps.
So yeah, that's. I'm kind of surprised I haven't come across this comic series either. I don't check every comic on DeviantArt though, or I'm sorry, on DeviantArt or Equestria Daily, because there's just so much content to go through. See, the fandom is dying, guys, and people are still making stuff somehow.
Yeah, I know, right? DJ, what do you think of all this?
I mean, it would be an interesting site. I guess I'm still kind of stuck on the one I was talking about earlier a little bit, if you wouldn't mind me going back to that one.
No, not at all, by all means.
As Aleximus was detailing his, I was thinking of other things that could happen along the lineup of Flurry being a brat.
Mm-hmm.
And it gave me an idea on how she could be depowered a little bit.
How so?
I know that was a big thing with yours, but essentially, I was thinking maybe kind of along the lines of what Aleximus was talking about. Maybe over time, her power settles in a little bit more, because earlier in the show they had talked about, like, with the Cake twins, how magic goes wild when they're young,
Mm-hmm.
and over time will start to settle. And I was thinking maybe as Flurry gets older, she, because of her bratty personality, she starts getting lazy with her magic to the point where she can't control it that much. Or she has a massive amount of power but doesn't understand how to use it, which could lead to her getting in trouble and essentially having to be again sent away to learn how to control her power, kind of maybe in like a Hercules arc where she has to earn her right to return home.
Okay.
I think that would be an interesting story arc for her, to try and understand her own power and to become a better pony and return home.
So I know earlier we talked and said that we didn't really like my idea of bringing her down to either like a plain unicorn, plain Pegasus, plain Earth pony, something like that, because it implied body horror. But what if we, what was the problem with debuffing Flurry Heart as a concept? Like, is that a bad concept, or did I just go about it the wrong way?
Maybe it's just me. I like overpowered characters. I like that they have that kind of power. But I don't know. It just kind of always irks me a little bit when they have all this power and then it's just suddenly stripped away. It's like when you're playing a video game and you have all the powers at the start and then suddenly you're stripped of it all and you have to earn it back over the rest of the video game.
Well, that's a bit more subjective. So,
That's
Alex,
a cool idea.
So, Alex, what do you think? Did I have a bad idea, or did I just execute it poorly?
The idea of her being friends with Cozy Glow?
No, the idea of Flurry Heart being debuffed.
I just thought
to the level of like a normal pony.
I thought of something while you guys were talking. What if the reason why Flurry is a brat is because she's lost her powers because she's a brat? Like, her powers, she was born with them, but because she ended up having a negative personality, they didn't take her powers away, but they started to diminish. And she finds out, in order for my powers to come back, I have to be a better pony. That's kind of an interesting bit of lore that could have worked for the show, and maybe that's the reason why Twilight grew in her magic.
Well, that's only a slight variation on what I had suggested.
Sort of.
So yeah, so it wasn't. So what you're saying, it's not so much that what I had said earlier in the stream was a bad concept. It's that you just didn't like the way I went about it, which was to physically as well as magically reduce Flurry Heart. Now DJ said that he likes overpowered characters, the way he put it made that sound pretty subjective. So subjectively, I'll say this, is that I prefer more down-to-earth characters. The second something gets world-breaking, the second you can create life or do alchemy out of nothing. The second you can alter tides, or have an effect on the world as a whole, but you're still just one person. My suspension of disbelief goes right out the window, because and maybe it's because like I'm just I have a lot of respect for nature and how much more powerful nature is to even humanity's best efforts at overcoming it is just mind-boggling. And a lot of people cannot even comprehend the vastness of the scale of just one planet in the entire cosmos versus the entirety of humanity. So when you can affect the world on a planet-breaking level, you lose me. And I think it's bad. And I think it's bad storytelling.
Yeah.
So, DJ, what do you think about everything I just said?
I don't really understand it. I don't see the disbelief in it, honestly. But maybe that's because I've always experienced overpowered characters. I've always been with Superman, Goku, Naruto, all those stories of characters that gain such power that it boggles the mind, and it's always just kind of been there with me. So I don't fully understand the aversion to it.
All right, and Alex, what do you think?
Sorry, I was kind of thinking of how to add to what he said there. Is it okay? Or what question is it you want me to answer per se?
So I had said why having characters that are overpowered at all is a bad idea.
Yeah.
And that's what I was explaining is from as objectively as I mean, yes, it is a subjective matter of taste. I can fully admit that, but I can give you objective reasons as to why I believe that. DJ disagreed. DJ does not have the same problems with overpowered characters that I do. What do you think on my take of overpowered characters?
Sorry, DJ, but I'm actually more on Brony's side here. I don't hate the idea. I don't hate the idea of having a super powerful character. I love Discord, but Discord was a villain at first, and it's usually better when the villain is really powerful and the heroes are weak. That gives them a conflict to see how they can beat him. Yeah, having overpowered characters, it can work for certain things like Dragon Ball Z. That only works for people who are fans of the show, whereas anybody else who like is really nitpicky about like good writing is going to look at that and be like, oh, I don't want to watch this or read that manga. I hate overpowered characters. Well, it's obviously a little more nuanced than that. But overpowered characters can be a problem because it can create what's the word I'm looking for? It makes it, I think, contrived. Is that what I'm trying to say? It can make the story really contrived, and then it challenges the people writing it to have to explain it. And sometimes they might, or we might have, I'm talking about the Star Wars sequels again because they fit this so well. We might have the Star Wars sequels where they never explain Rey's abilities really at all, and she just comes off boring and unrelatable. And
well, you might also have the Star Wars prequels.
I can't really think of an example where an overpowered character can work, unless it's where they're overpowered but they come up against a villain who's more powerful. Well, the real challenge, I guess, is not having to do with their powers, but their
character,
their ability to make a good decision about this, or in the case of Twilight in the beginning of the show.
So internal character conflicts is what you're saying.
To solve the problem, not try to use what she was referring to as the spark, which she seemed to originally think, okay, if I can tap into it with my magic, I can get powerful enough to defeat Nightmare Moon. She ends up finding out, no, I have to be friends with these ponies. she realizes they all represent the elements. I think I kind of strayed off there, but it's kind of hard figuring out how a overpowered character can work because people are just so critical about it these days. But let me just say, if you're going to make an overpowered character, you best get ready to explain and make sure it makes sense, or you're going to end up like the people who made the Star Wars sequels, and nobody wants that.
By the same token, for both you and Alexa, for both you, Alex, and DJ,
I mentioned this earlier. Oh, Brony, sorry, are you speaking right now?
Yeah, can you not hear me? Hello? Okay, I think I know.
Brony, are you speaking? Because I can't hear you. I don't know what's going on.
I can hear you.
Okay, so apparently Alex is having trouble
if
hearing
anyone
me.
can hear me. Something is wrong on my end. I'm not picking up DJ or Brony.
Okay.
It always happens.
That would explain why we keep interrupting each other.
Ask the chat if they can hear me. I might have to reconnect, guys.
Okay, go ahead and do that. Because
Not the first time this has happened to me. Anyone here? Oh, Paladin Pony says he can hear me. Okay, Brony and DJ, I can't hear you guys. Okay, well, I can't hear you. Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry for the technical difficulties, guys.
Try to connect again.
All right.
Here I go.
All right, can you hear us now?
Okay.
No,
you guys.
No, well, we can hear you, but he still can't hear us.
Wait a minute. Okay, so you can hear me, but I can't hear you. Is the site muted? No, it's not muted. Oh, Brony, speak. Can you?
Hello?
Oh, okay, now I can hear you.
Okay. All right. So I don't know what that was, but I'm glad we got you back to fully functioning now. Sorry about that, people in stream. Thank you for bearing with us while we figured that out. Anyway, what I was gonna say in response, Alex, was that even well, this is for both you, Alex, as well as DJ, is that if you're gonna have overpowered characters, yeah, you're gonna have the problem of you might have the Star Wars sequels problems of never explaining why they're any good or being any good at explaining it. But there's two sides to that coin. The other side is the Star Wars prequels, where they tried to explain how the Force works in a biological sense, and in terms of storytelling, it didn't work. Right. So,
yeah.
Disagree, but okay.
Okay, so we'll get to that. We'll get to that later. They did the same thing in The Legend of Korra, where they tried to explain how the Avatar worked through some all-powerful spirit being, and that kind of ruined what the Avatar was supposed to be. And they did a lot of breaking of how the bending lore was supposed to work. So it's like I haven't seen a good story with an overpowered character. I'm just gonna.
You don't read a lot of Superman.
Yeah, well, I can agree with what you said earlier, DJ, that Superman is best in a slice of life standpoint. But yeah, when the dude literally sneezes and wipes out a solar system, I have problems with that.
Yeah. Anything like that.
That depends on the story.
Overdone.
Okay, so DJ, how do you make overpowered characters work?
Usually, like I said, they're usually in a slice of life capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times having the big uber challenges with overpowered characters gets overdone. People get tired of it eventually. That's how Dragon Ball kind of wore on a lot of people. So a lot of it deals with interpersonal stuff, character development, the use of their powers, their morality, that's what interests me with overpowered characters, what they do, how they should use that power.
Mm-hmm.
And how it affects the people around them. And with a lot of the best Superman stories, his power is there as a symbol of hope. And that's a big thing in some of the best stories, where his power isn't what's going to help these people. Like one of the best stories I read was a story about Captain Marvel, or as Shazam as they call him, where Superman learns who Shazam is, that he's just a little 10-year-old boy. And in the comic, the Shazam had accidentally gotten his best friend killed in an alley and had nearly killed the mob boss that had his friend killed. And Superman went after him, trying to understand why this big hulking guy was protective and calling a child his best friend until he depowered. What Superman did was he went after the wizard who gave Shazam his power and demanded why a child was given the power. And of course, Shazam, the wizard, is mystical wizard who thinks everything is right. And what Superman did was decide to take Billy Batson, Captain Marvel, Shazam, under his wing to be a teacher. That's where the story ends, with him revealing his secret identity as Clark Kent to Billy Batson as the way to help him.
Right.
It's a really interesting story.
Yeah, and I've actually read that story, and I had no problem with that story. But I guess you're right. I'll give you this point, DJ. I have not read enough Superman where they do that, because every other time I see Superman, he's everything else I described that's wrong with having a character of that caliber. So let's try to wrap this up here a little bit so we can get into the audience participation segment of the show. So DJ, how do you take what do you do with Flurry Heart having her own show where she's either the main character or a secondary backup character? So like what kind of show do you give where Flurry Heart has a future? You have unlimited resources. You can do in full creative control. You can do whatever you want. What do you do?
I would take Flurry Heart through a story of humbling yourself. She is a mare who has a lot at the start. She has high-ranking parents. She has a lot of magic. She is a literal princess destined to be an empress, as we've seen at the end of the show.
Mm-hmm.
And a story of her understanding ponies around her would be very interesting to me, and I think a lot of other people, where she has to understand herself, understand others, and decide on what her future is going to be with the power that she has.
Okay. And Alex, same question, but challenge mode. It can't be your story, the one that you're working on now.
Yeah, well, I wanted to stay away from that. The idea of humbling her, I think, is a good idea too. But again, I feel like they already did that with Twilight. So I'm trying to think of another way it could be done. We've got, obviously the humbling sort of way. This is one thing I wanted to say earlier. If she is in a position where she starts off as a bratty character, it would be really interesting if we could, see her be put with, say, one of the trio, if let's say they escape, and maybe she doesn't necessarily join them, but she finds herself in a scenario where she becomes friends with them because she's a brat, they're villains, but she is able to eventually see, well, I may be a brat, but I'm not a villain, so I have to try to find a way to change them. In the process, she herself changes because it's more of a journey of being humbled than anything having to do with her powers. Although her having powers would make a good plot point for the villains getting her to join, because they think, well, if she's powerful, then she can help us out, and maybe we'll win next time or something like that.
So it really sounds to me like you and DJ have very similar ideas of what to do with Flurry Heart's future and how to tell her stories. Mine is, like I said, debuff her. Make her start, debuff her not just physically, but from her own actions. She causes herself to get debuffed and has to start again from the beginning. I guess the most similar thing I could come up to was the Marvel Cinematic Universe's first Thor movie. Something like that.
Oh, yeah.
So that's my idea, but let's get into the audience participation segment here. So if this is your first time tuning into Brony Debates, I've been watching the chat as we've been talking, and I've been copying down interesting comments or questions that I've seen asked by the chat, and we're going to go through them now. Before I even really get started with this, I want to say this to MRDZ Entertainment. I've been reading what you've been saying, and so he disagrees with why I dislike overpowered characters. So I know they only give you 200 characters there, MRDZ, but do your best to explain to me why I'm wrong while we read through these comments, and we'll get to you at the end here. So here's an idea from Megabuster Shepherd, who says, Flurry Heart learns dark magic from Aunt Luna. What do we think about that arc, that episode, or could that be the whole series?
If anything, it'd be Celestia.
Really?
She's the only one that outside of Twilight that's been shown to be able to actually use it.
And Nightmare Moon never happened?
We never saw Nightmare Moon using dark magic.
Nightmare Moon is dark magic.
Yeah, but Luna's not Nightmare Moon.
Right, but she obviously had to tap into some dark magic in order to be able to succumb to Nightmare Moon, in order to
I never saw Nightmare Moon doing somber eyes.
In order to create the Tantabus as well.
I don't consider that dark magic in this world.
Alex, what do you think?
Oh, you guys are saying who would teach her dark magic? I think, Brony, you said Luna, or were you reading a comment?
Yeah, I was reading a comment. The comment was from Megabuster Shepherd, who says Flurry Heart learns dark magic from Aunt Luna, and I said, what do you think of that?
Oh, she's already got just regular her magic. If someone taught her dark magic, could create a sort of anti-hero scenario or villain. But I just had an idea. What if instead of someone teaching her magic, what if in the beginning of a series about her, she has too much of it and is abusing it, so Discord takes her magic away from her, and the challenge is now she has no magic, so now she has to rely on making friendships and everything to humble her. And maybe over time Discord gives some of it back.
Well, gosh darn, that's just a spin on what I had suggested for the future of Flurry Heart. All right, let's move on here. Yoshi Fan 30 says, "Hey Alex, I did read your stories and I thought this was pretty interesting. A pretty interesting idea of how Flurry Heart had been doing these days. So you got a little compliment there."
Yeah, I was trying to avoid talking about my story anymore and instead coming up with something else off the top of my head. But thank you.
Well, that was towards the beginning. I'm sorry. What did you say, Alex?
Who was it that you said sent that again?
Yoshi Fan 30.
Oh, yes. He's a big follower of mine on Fimfic.
Oh, well, it's thank you, Yoshi Fan 30, for tuning into the show. MRDZ Entertainment says, instead of Flurry getting nerfed, why not buff the main antagonist to a universe level threat? I say for the same reasons that I was talking about earlier, that overpowered characters are a bad idea. What do you guys think? So Alex, instead of debuffing Flurry, the overall threat of the series gets raised to something of a galactic or even universal scale.
Oh, well, we know Discord has, kind of god level powers almost. Well, not quite, because he was defeated by Erick before Erick had like all the magic in Equestria. So I guess he's not quite that powerful, just has like really crazy cosmic level physics bending powers. I mean, I guess if they had done something with Grogar, he could have been in that position. And maybe Flurry, I don't know if I'm answering your question here, but maybe Flurry could find herself using her powers for that, since she appeared to be so, OP when she first came into the show, whereas Twilight was just born a regular unicorn, unless she was doing like what Pumpkin Cake was doing in the Baby Cakes episode, where she and Pound kind of got their abilities to use magic and fly a little early, and were already really good at it. We see Pound like walking on the ceiling while flying, and freaking like Pumpkin Cake is like kind of like phasing through the baby carriage or the crib or
we get where you're going with that. DJ, what do you think?
I'm all for it. Let's get pony gods up in here. Let's get gods of destruction.
I would take it if the universal threat became Flurry, and okay, so let's pull Dragon Ball
now
Z.
You're sounding like Thor 2.
I suppose, but I was thinking more along the lines of Dragon Ball Z. We had Majin Buu, who was this super powerful thing being controlled by an extremely weak being. So, you get this character who becomes Flurry's heart friends and then manipulates her into becoming a villain, but thinking she's doing the right thing, and then she becomes the universal threat, and everybody has to band together to A, defeat her, and B, talk her down. I think that'd be an interesting story.
No, I couldn't really see it happening.
Alrighty then.
I mean, can I say something, Brony?
Yeah, sure.
I guess it can work sometimes. Me personally, I kind of think it's a little cliche to put the hero in a situation where they become the villain, unless there's a good way to do it, like they're manipulated or they're mind control is even more cliche. But there are ways it could work. We didn't really see that happen with Twilight. Well, I guess you could say we did in the season 2 premiere. Although she wasn't super powered there, she just kind of, she was fighting with her friends. And then when she turned gray, she just kind of lost hope. Which that 2-parter premiere was always really well done with its storytelling, in my opinion. I don't know. I just I kind of think it's a little cliche to put the hero in that situation. It could work. I guess for Flurry, since we'll never know what did happen to her, somebody out there could do a story like that. She discovers her true potential with her powers and gets more powerful, but ends up becoming a villain, and her friends or somebody have to stop her.
Okay, let's move on here. Let's see here. Paladin Pony T says, Aleximus Prime, you could have a downside to Flurry's powers. Okay, so
I saw that.
Yeah, what do you think about that?
Oh, I mean, a very simple one could be when she uses her powers, it causes her to go berserk, and just kind of lose her mind, maybe lose her memory once she calms down, or maybe she can only be really powerful when she's angry. And obviously that would be a problem too. A downside to her powers, I mean, it's kind of already a big storytelling idea for if somebody's really powerful, there has to be a downside Like in My Hero Academia, for example, main character Izuku gets his power from All Might, but when he first tries to use it, he ends up breaking one of his arms and both of his legs because he hasn't figured out how to only use a fraction of it and like properly channel his energy. So he finds himself like using a bit of his power by flicking one of his fingers to create like a huge like wave of like wind. Then he breaks his finger and he has to keep going to the nurse who has like healing powers to bring him back.
Okay.
He does learn to control it later on. I need to get back to watching more of My Hero Academia. It's been too long.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and last one here. Malik Muhammad says, DJ, please tell me the name of that Superman story we were talking about.
Oh, 1 sec. I actually have a physical copy. Let me grab it here real quick.
All right, and while he's grabbing that, let me see here. MRDZ Entertainment says, it's not that I disagree, just that I find it more based on preference than logic. Of course, I can be wrong. Personally, I do enjoy OP characters, but I do because most of the time their worlds are optimized for the overpowered. Something most fanfic writers don't get, which makes it hard to understand the reasoning for the overpoweredness. Okay, so it's purely subjective there. Gosh darn, I thought you had something objective against me, but thank you for answering the question nonetheless.
Okay, it's called Superman Shazam First Thunder.
Superman Shazam First Thunder. There you go, Malik. I hope you're still listening. And King Westonian says, what if Shining Armor tries to save the Dragonlands from an evil dragon queen and has to save 4 eggs and turns one into a pony and makes him ruler of the kingdom? I think that's something completely separate from what we were talking about.
Yeah. I read that. That's a really crazy idea.
King Westonian, do me a favor, write that and then show us. I don't know if King Westonian's a halfway decent writer, I'd read the heck out of that.
Hey, Brony. Oh, can I read one question? Well, it's not a question, but it might start a good conversation.
Of course.
Megabuster Shepherd said earlier, George, as in George Lucas, actually had the midichlorians in his draft for A New Hope. Did not know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
No, there were a lot of things that kind of ended up getting used in the prequels that probably could have been used way before. So that means George Lucas had the idea in like the 70s for the midichlorians. That really gets you wondering why he didn't use them. Maybe someone else working on the film told him, no, that's a bad idea, because the way I see it, George Lucas had a lot of people helping him with the original trilogy, and that's what made the films better than the prequels, because in the prequels he had too much control himself. And some very critical fans sometimes will say George Lucas doesn't do so good when he's only working by himself and has little amount of people helping him.
I just think the concept of Star Wars doesn't necessarily work as movies. There's too much going on in the world, and there's too much going on in the deep lore. It's always worked better as a television show. And anyone who starts their movies with a 3-minute text crawl does not have their script in order.
Is it really 3 minutes?
It's longer than it should be, and it's more reading than it should be.
I do recommend any of the Star Wars Legends books, though.
Yes, the Legends. I don't like any of the Star Wars movies. I'm just going to say that outright. I don't like any of the Star Wars movies, but the Legends comics and the books are very interesting, and the TV shows have been pretty good thus far. All right,
we need to read the EU someday.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody just made Paladin Pony just made a comment. He says, in my story, I have a character who is part alicorn, so he has a lot of hidden power, but he can't use it all because it hurts his unicorn body. That's an interesting. Well, that's kind of what I said with Zuko in My Hero Academia. He has the power, but he doesn't know how to control it, so he ends up hurting himself.
Now that's
So yeah,
that's
same thing,
interesting. That could be that could be an interesting concept. I just got to ask, what the heck is a part alicorn? Okay, but
Basically, what you would want it Flurry to be.
yeah, I guess. So hang on a second here. Sorry, I had a nasty frog in my throat. I had to clear it. I think we're all clear on the comments. Aleximus, is there any closing thoughts you would like to give us before we sign out for the night?
I already said this earlier, but if you're going to put an overpowered character in there, just be prepared for a lot of writing and explaining. Because again, don't be like the prequel, or not the prequel, the Star Wars sequel writers.
All right.
But it can make for a good plot point.
Yep. And so what you want to see in Flurry Heart's future is conflict of character. Is that correct?
You're talking to me?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm not really focusing on the power part so much. I guess it's not that I don't care about that, but yeah, I would like to see it focus more on her character.
Okay.
The powers maybe we can, figure out later.
Yeah, and tell me one thing you learned tonight.
One thing I learned tonight? Oh, well, that thing about George Lucas with the midichlorians, but I learned that maybe there aren't as many people who hate the overpowered character thing as I thought, because DJ is okay with it. Mm-hmm. That's okay. Like I said, it can work sometimes. You just gotta really do it right, and Hollywood just cannot these days. DJ, do you write fanfics by any chance?
I do.
Interesting. Do you have any that deal with an overpowered character?
Kinda.
He wrote a crossover with Winnie the Pooh. I don't think you can possibly get more overpowered than that. I mean, for God's sakes, the dude rules China.
Oh,
let's not bring it into this.
I'm doing it. It's my show. I'm doing it.
For those interested, my fanfic is posted down below with Aleximus's if you wanted to check out. I do have a couple overpowered stories, sadly. Some of them have been canceled.
Oh, that's no good. Are you still working on that Pokemon one?
Slowly but surely. I'm trying to build a routine for myself right now.
Yeah, I understand. I understand that so well. So, DJ, hey, do you have any closing thoughts for us tonight?
I think Flurry Heart had a lot of untapped potential. I do hope that as the season 10 comics continue on with the storyline, we might see a Flurry Heart story that maybe is a bit more story heavy than wacky antics that we've seen before. And also, since Brony brought it up earlier, I would love to see Flurry Heart in a Drake and Josh parody. It sounds hilarious.
Okay, but who is Flurry Heart? Is she Drake or Josh? And if in which
she
case...
would definitely be Drake.
Okay, and then who's Josh? Is it you? Are you Josh?
I feel attacked. Let's go with Big Mac and Sugar Bell's son.
Oh.
That's interesting. And then later down the line, we can turn it into an anime where Flurry Heart develops feelings for her senpai.
And since someone pointed out, Pinky and Cheese's kid would be Megan.
Oh. I have absolutely no problem with this. Okay, Alex, we got some writing to do. And DJ, I need you to give me $10,000 so I can make this real.
No.
No? How freaking dare you? Okay.
Let's start a Kickstarter.
Yeah, well, okay, so how many people do we have? Okay, we got 13 people watching the stream right now. We're going to start this Kickstarter. I need all of you to give the Kickstarter $1,000 so we can make this real. And tonight, okay, so DJ, one thing you learned tonight.
Honestly, I learned that there's a lot more dislike for overpowered characters than I thought. I'm so engrossed in Dragon Ball Z fandom that I haven't seen that kind of response to it before.
You see, that's what happens when you rot your brain with anime. All right, so, and
hypocrite.
And I learned that, I learned that for the most part, Alex and DJ and I agree on where to start with Flurry Heart's character, but where to go from there, we have very different ideas on. And, you know, I learned some areas that I can improve on my own writing and some of the merits of different types of characterization that I hadn't considered before. And I had a fun stream tonight. So how about you guys? Did you guys have fun tonight?
Yeah, definitely good conversations.
Yeah, and Alex, thanks for suggesting the topic. Thanks for coming out. DJ, thank you for helping me with the stream as well. Big thanks to all of those who tuned in, all 18 of you that tuned in, and the 13 that are still with us. Thanks for sticking to the end. And especially big shout out to the people that make this show possible. My very generous supporters on Patreon. If you would like to get on this show, I'd love to have you. We just need you to get on that Patreon for as little as $1 a month. From there, you get into the Discord server where you can come onto the show and make suggestions and all that fun stuff. And big shout out especially to those on the $10 and up tier, one of them being DJ, the rest being Princess Heather Blossom, Shady Oak Ministries, Sid McConroy, Autoknight, Emerald Spencer, Sodden, Girder, Senko, Jennan, Kellogg, Kyle Christensen, Stephen A. Wilson, Reck, Rein-Kun, Princess Sunshine Sparkle, Bootleg Bard, the Nameless One, and Dark Malcontent, author of the Metaverse series. Please check out all of their content, links in the description. Thank them for their support. I hope to see you all next time. If you want to hang out with us some more on live streams, I'm going to be on Princess Heather Blossom's channel tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, reading the chat and hanging out for Chaos and Crocheting. And then next Friday, we're doing Friday Night Fight, so stay tuned to see what game we're going to be playing there. Thanks again for coming out, everyone, and have a great night and a wonderful weekend, and God bless, and stay safe, and say goodnight, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Ooh, DJ was ready that time.